everyone, today we're breaking down the basics of Linglox on Roblox. We'll start off with these mechanics first before diving into what the different colors do. If you haven't played the tutorial yet, I really recommend it. It covers the core mechanics this guide builds on. Alright, let's get started. This one's called Middle Institutional White. Yeah, that's a mouthful. Let's just call it middle white. All you gotta do is copy the same word. It's as simple as that. So, every block or prompt comes with a color and a height, and each one has its own mechanics. Middle white means right the same. Now we're on the high blocks. The prompt is a bit higher than usual. Just answer with something that sounds like the hint. High sounds like high. I sounds like by. Z sounds like C. Now for the low white blocks, you need to answer with a word that has the same meaning as the hint. Hello and hi are similar because they're both greetings. Man, this feels like I'm teaching a kindergarten lesson. You could also use hints to your advantage. They always give the first or last letter of the answer. Prompts in the same column all have the same answer. Now for the color black. Just like middle white, for middle black, you copy the answer but write it backwards. Doom written backwards is mood. Mood written backwards is doom. Now for low black. Since low white was synonyms, what do you think low black means? If you answered antonyms, then good job. The opposite of close is open. Let's do a quick warm-up. Try putting your answers in the comments below. Let's see if you got it right. The opposite of unsolved is solved. The synonym of sufficient is enough. Middle white means right the same. That's all you need to know about the basic mechanics of the game. We covered how institutional white works, how heights work, and how columns work. Now, let's move on to black, or as I like to call it. We already talked about how middle black and low black work, so let's do a quick recap. Middle black is where you copy the answer, but write it in reverse. Low black is the opposite of low white. Instead of synonyms, you answer with antonyms. Now, let's talk about high black. For this one, you need to think about how the prompt sounds when you read it out loud. What word does it sound like? For example, when you read tuck backwards, it becomes cut. What does that sound like? That's right, cut. Now here's a tricky one. If you read nutty in reverse, it turns into it or sounds like he done. What does that sound like? Yup, Eden. Alright, let's do a quick summary before we move on. It's called the additive because we add letters or words to find the answer. For example, our prompt is a middle blue and the hint is sham. What word can we make by adding a letter to sham? That's right, shame. Now for high blue, our hint is for. Think about what we can add to for. Maybe B for works. It almost sounds like before, so our answer is before. Lastly, this one confuses some of my friends. Prompt is a low blue and the hint is forelock. What is a forelock anyway? Well, where does this object belong? We add the forelock to a horse, so horse is our answer. In short, blue means we add something to the prompt. Now we're on the color red, also known as the remover. For middle red, you simply remove some letters from the prompt. Example, our hint is below. If you remove the letters B, you'll get low. For high red, it's a little different. You still remove some letters, but then think about what the leftover part sounds like. For example, our hint is cyan. If you remove N, you get Psy. And what does Psy sound like? That's right, Psy. Now for low red, here's how I like to think about it. What does this object have or contain? For example, our hint is foot. What does a foot have? Our answer is toe. In short, red means you remove something related to the prompt. Now we're on the color yellow, also known as the Scrambler. For middle yellow, you scramble the letters of the prompt until you find a real word. For example, if you mix up the letters in sheet, you can get these. For high yellow, it's a little trickier. You still scramble the prompt, but this time listen to what the scrambled word sounds like. For example, if you scramble miles, you might get lies. And what does lies sound like? That's right, lies. Finally, for low yellow, think of it like this. What can you do with the word in the prompt? For example, if the hint is meat, what can you do with it? Can you mix it? You can mince meat, so our answer is mince. In short, yellow means you scramble or mix a word related to the prompt.